5.
Okay, we can call the meeting to order at 1:19 p.m. Happy New Year to everyone. This is a special meeting, but it's our first one back. So wishing you all a Happy New Year. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general and the nature thereof? Seeing none. This is a special meeting to deal with our the final 2022 budget. I need a motion for approval of the agenda as circulated. Have a mover, please. Councillor Phillips, second by Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried.
Mayor Latchford,
Yes.
if we can just go back to the conflict of interest, if there is any discussion at this meeting in regard to Community Care Northumberland or Ed's House, I will be declaring a conflict of interest as my employer.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough to say that when you asked.
Okay, thank you. Item 4.1. Well, we did that actually. Approval of the agenda is circulated. Item 5, and this is the 2022 draft budget meetings, the minutes. Be it resolved that the 2022 draft budget meeting minutes of November 22nd, 2021, November 23rd, 2021, and December 15th, 2021 be approved. Have a mover, please. Councillor Phillip and second by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Item 6 is 2022 draft budget presentation. And council's direction is going to be required on this at the end, but there could be some questions. So I'll just read the motion to get it on the floor. Be it resolved that the 2022 draft budget presentation, it says be accepted as presented, and further that council's direction is required, but I just like the motion and then it can be open for discussion. Do I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson and Councillor Phillips second. Anything you wish council to discuss prior to the approval or whatever you want? I just want to ask, since we have the letter from Green Thumbs, if we could move that to this point. If that's okay with council, because I'm wondering if that should be a discussion before the budget is passed.
That sounds reasonable.
We had their letter, and if we're going to give them the 350 or if we're not, based on what their letter said. So do you want to discuss that? We can have a motion to move that into item 6 and deal with it first. Sherry, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to open it for discussion.
Okay.
I can second that.
Okay. We're legal doing this, Pat? Pat, are we okay to do this right now?
Sorry, I forgot I was on mute. Yes, you are, Madam Chair.
Okay. So we have the letter from the Green Thumbs. I think it's on page 48, and I'm wondering if you want to address that prior to the final budget. Do we have a copy of that? Thought I had a copy.
Yes, it is page 8 in your agenda package. 48, sorry. 48.
Okay. So how do you wish to handle this, council? They didn't get their application in on time, but yet they're volunteers that have worked and spending that money in the township every year.
I may.
Sherry?
Yeah, I just have a comment in regard to the letter and their reply to it. And I've always found it somewhat unusual that we have given this organization a donation in exchange for services. And I wonder if a better way to handle it, if we're saying the donation is based on, you know, the assistance that they provide to the township in keeping the gardens maintained, if we shouldn't be providing them with an honorarium or something along, I would think that that's the right thing, but something other than specifically a donation, so that they're not in that, you know, donations discussion, but it's something that we're choosing to give them remuneration for their services.
Mhm.
I'm not so sure that they get money for their services. My understanding was it's to buy the plants and the garden things they need to do the job they do. I know a few of them are master gardeners. So, and they volunteer their time. I don't think they're,
then to me, that even makes more sense that we don't include them in the donations discussion if we're basically reimbursing them for supplies that they've purchased on our behalf. Should they not be then, if they're volunteering their time, submitting their receipts to us for whatever they've purchased and us reimbursing that group?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if instead of having them as like a volunteer group sort of on their own, should they go under Public Works and Parks, and that 350 just go in that budget?
Yeah.
And then the invoices would just come in through our system. Mike?
Yeah, I'd even take that one step further. But I think you've nailed it. But I wonder if they should just simply have a line in the budget for garden maintenance, whatever that Troy suggests it should be. But yeah, I agree. Let's take it into the budget and treat them as a volunteer group and thank them accordingly. But and my understanding from that letter was, and please correct me, Madam Mayor, that they said they were only interested in maintaining the garden that was directly across from the office there. Am I right?
They do that one, and they do the front of the municipal building.
I also thought they did.
I'm not sure that they do. Do they do the
Haldeman
church at
Shores?
Regla?
I thought they did that, and I thought they did Haldeman Shores there as well. The gardens there at the marker. I could be wrong.
Troy?
No, I'm not sure exactly. I don't think they go down that far. I thought they were just across the road and in front of the building.
Okay, well, then it's not an issue. I thought they had a wider scope than that. Trying to remember the name of the lady that
I could see her face.
So,
Yeah,
so they do the Grafton Heritage Park and Town Hall and Wicklow Heritage Park.
Yeah, Wicklow, I thought they did too.
Mhm.
So those
they're-
three.
So they're giving those others
you-
up and just doing the one across from the township office, and they're going to do the township. Is that correct? Is that right or no?
That's correct, but I think that's because we weren't giving them the 350.
Well,
Carol, you to comment. Donna.
I would explore that.
I was just going to say in the letter, it said they decided they will no longer volunteer their time and talent for the upkeep of the gardens in front of the town hall and at Wicklow Heritage Park, but will continue maintaining Grafton Heritage Park.
Yeah.
Right. So that cuts them out of there's a lot of extra work there for the township. So I just want, I would like you to find out whether the response was because they didn't think they were being adequately compensated for their material, or are they just packing it in and only offering to do those two parts? Because if that's the case, then it falls back on parks to maintain those extra beds. And I think we should clarify that.
Okay, Counselor Booth, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're still on mute. Unmute yourself. There you go.
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, they have in here,
Yeah, you're good now.
they have in here, they said, we discussed your new policy of requiring us to divulge our finances to receive a minimal grant for the work we do. So they obviously, there's a policy that we have that says that if you're applying for a grant or anything like that, you have to provide us with this information. So obviously they don't want to do that. We can't give them a grant. I have no issue if we take the 350 and put it in Brian's budget, and if they have to go out and buy soil or buy whatever it is and they want to hand the receipts into Brian, I have no issue with that. But I don't want to be held hostage either by a volunteer group. It's almost like a veiled threat here. Well, we're not going to look after this now. Well, then that's fine. We have summer students. It's not going to kill us. No different than up at Roseneath if we have to put some lights on some trees or look after some gardens up there or that. So I would go back to them and say, okay, there's $350 in Brian's budget. If you are doing work there and you want soil or this or that, then you can put in your receipts up to that amount.
How does council feel about that? It's basically the same. If we put it in Public Works budget, we can tell them they have that money if they want to continue to do those extra gardens.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that decision.
Okay, and that way they won't have to put in or apply every year. It'll just be like Mike says, a line in the budget. It's one way to solve it.
I agree.
I'm okay with that, but I'm just, I guess I've learned to be a little more sensitive about political fallout. I hope they don't negatively respond to that. I respect what they've done for us. I'm just not sure we're going to win them over in the end. I think they might just say, we're done.
But that's okay too. At least we're offering an option.
Mhm.
And if they don't want to do it or choose not to, then we've got 350 for staff to Brian to
Mhm.
assign staff and whatever needs for it to be done.
Yeah, and with that point, I am also happy with the council's decision.
And you know, the gardening is good for people and it's mostly senior people who are doing it, and they like the social contact and they like to go by and see how nice their work is. So,
Yep.
which it is and always has been. So I think it's just a branch to send out and we just move that money. If that's okay. Because we have that money in a contingency fund now, do we not, Carol? So we would just move it into Public Works?
Yeah, we left it in the budget because we didn't know what was going to happen, so we can just move it into, and I would imagine you want it moved into Parks and Rec, not Public Works.
O'Brien's Public Works and Parks, so whatever.
But there,
Wherever.
we've got a separate budget for Parks and Rec, so I would think that it would go into
Okay.
that part of it.
Okay, yeah. So we're really not changing the dollar figure on the budget. We're just putting that 350 into parks and offering them what they've been doing all along, if they choose. And so Pat will write a letter to them, but answer Mr. Bussey back and see where it goes from there. Is all okay? So Sherry made the motion for it to be discussed and Jim seconded. So can we go on with that being the decision on that motion, Pat? Sort of ending up that motion with that recommendation?
So the mover and the seconder are in agreement then that the money will be forwarded into the Parks and Recreation budget. And I'll send a letter to the Grafton Green Thumbs.
Yeah, that it's there for their choice. That's first, if they choose to continue on with how they were working.
Okay.
The number of parks they were doing. Okay.
Okay.
Greg?
That it's not going to be exactly the way they used to do it because we just gave them the 350. So Pat, it needs to be explained to them. Maybe they touch base with Brian or whatever, that they have to now submit the receipts. I mean, they're not going to submit labor receipts. It would be receipts for equipment or supplies that they buy, and that has to be approved by Brian and then paid out. So there's going to have to be a procedure for them to follow that they haven't been doing in the past, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So hopefully that will work. Deputy Mayor Gibson?
Yeah, I just wonder if I could just word the motion in that we reply to the Grafton Green Thumbs letter dated December 10th, 2021, with our thanks for their past service, and council has come to a decision that we will move $350 into the Parks and Recreation budget for them to submit any receipts for supplies that they purchased in relation to the work that they've done within the township.
Are you okay with that, Jim, as the seconder?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So if there's no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? So that's carried, Pat. Thank you. Okay, are there any further things in the budget that council wishes to discuss before we pass it?
The treasurer has a budget presentation. Did you want her to go through that?
Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, Carol. So we've got that now over into your presentation.
Okay,
That's
and I'm going to put it on my screen and Yolanda is going to try to share it.
Okay. So this is the final presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay to share it, Carol?
Yep. You can share it, Yolanda.
I don't have it on my screen. Carol will have to put it on her screen and share her screen.
Is it sharing?
Not yet.
Still nothing?
No.
Troy, you gotta let us come back.
Oh, there you go.
Here
it
we
there?
go. Here it's coming. Yep, there it is.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to go?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So there was a couple corrections in the roads budget that we had to fix. Gravel maintenance wages was sitting at 0. We had to increase that to 35,000. And the number 18 Sterling tandem wages was at 200. It must have been a typo. We had to move that to 2,000. But instead of changing the actual increase, what we did was we reduced the amount going into the reserves by the 36,800 to offset the increase. So the increase, the tax increase would remain the same. So I just wanted to put that out there first, and then we'll go with the 2020 final budget presentation.
Okay.
So the 2020 budget timelines, mid-September, we sent out all the draft working papers and donation letters for the organizations requesting donations. November 1st to the 12th, I met with all department heads regarding their budgets and reviewed with the CAO. November 23rd or 22nd and 23rd, we had our first draft budget meetings with 2 days worth of meetings. So then November 24th, a discussion took place and changes were completed that we were asked by council, myself and the CAO to reduce the budget and make it to get it to a 4% increase. So we did that with the department heads. We got it down to under 4%. So we emailed all of those to council and presented them at the December 15th meeting, and approval was given to complete the final budget presentations with questions from the public. So today we're doing the virtual final budget presentation and questions from the public. And if everything is good, we will, you will pass the budget at the regular council meeting tomorrow, if there's no changes. So
Okay.
the 2022 budget impact, the township's tax rate increase is a 3.9%. It equates to $21.43 per 100,000 of assessment for the residents for their lower tier taxes only. So this does not include county and school boards. MPAC was notified us that the reassessment will not be happening for an additional 2 years, which means harsh impacts for everybody else, because usually those reassessments bring in the extra assessment that we need to keep the taxes down. So that's unfortunately that they're going to wait for 2 more years, but the Ontario cost of living COLA increase as of October 2021 was at 4.9%. So the wages will increase by COLA in 2022. So this is just the budget summary that shows you what we had to collect to raise or from taxation this year. So there, it shows you the last few years in there. So we've had to increase it by 3.92%. This is where your tax dollars are going in 2022. So 9.62% goes to a governance and administration. Parks and Rec is 4.8. Rec and Culture is 1.5. Cemeteries is 0.05. Protective Services, which includes the OPP, is 17.64. Building and Bylaw is 0.91. Fire and Emergency Planning is 13.14. The library is 3.76. Heritage is 0.06, planning is 2.57, and public works is 45.94. The average assessment of a residential property is $310,000, which equates to $1,760.19 for township taxes. Part of the reason that the average assessment of a residential property hasn't changed much in the last couple of years is because we have not had any reassessments. Once we get those reassessments, the property values will probably go from 310 to 610 or 710 because of all the increases in assessments. So governance and administration, it equates to 106 for the average home. It equates to $169.32 a year. That includes the council and legislative administration, general administration, financial audit and property tax services, human resources and payroll, policy administration, website administration, community plans and programming, and insurance. For the fire and emergency planning, $231.19 of your taxes go toward that. Volunteer firefighting compensation, fire occurrences, prevention and training. There's 3 fire halls, fire service vehicles, fire equipment, dispatch and communications, and public education events. $84.55 goes towards parks and recreation. So this deals with our parks, our arena, the trails, playgrounds, inspections and maintenance, the baseball diamonds, boat launches, Nawatan Sanctuary, and any tree removal that has to be done. The library is $66.26. 3 library branches, all of the library services, children programming, and e-resources is included in that. Recreation and culture. This is a new budget that we have this year, which has all of the community centers in it, public events and community programming, and it equates to $26.44 of our taxes. Heritage is only $1.14, and it deals with preservation of historical properties, preservation of historical documents, publication of historical books, and public historical information. The cemeteries are 91 cents of the taxes, and it's maintenance of all cemeteries, stone repairs, tree removals, fence repairs, and maintenance. Planning department, professional recommendation on land use, planning applications, compliance with all planning matters, preparation of official plan and planning policies, and it equates to $45.15. Protective services is $310.49. It has animal control and livestock, conservation authority levies, environmental, OPP contract, police services board, and community policing are all included in that cost. Building and bylaws, $16.05. Bylaw enforcement, it's ensuring compliance of the Ontario Building Code, review and issuance of building permits and building inspections. Public works, bridges and culverts. So it equates to $808.67. It has the new public works building in it, 273 kilometers of paved surface treated roads, 157 kilometers of gravel roads. We have 26 major culverts, 20 bridges, 1,434 road signs that we have to do maintenance on, winter control services for 430 kilometers, 2 road depots, 3 sand domes, fleet repair, fuel maintenance, roadside mowing, and grading of gravel roads. So I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank all the department heads, the library CEO and the library board and council for all the cooperation through this process. I feel again, it was a very smooth process for the 2022 budget. And that's the end of that.
Thanks, Carol. That's a good presentation, and I really like the way you've got that broke down to each one of those departments having the dollar figure placed in it like that and what's there. So once that goes on the website, that'll be pretty good information for people to have. So that's well done. Okay, council, do you have any questions for Carol or any comments on this presentation? Seeing none. So be it resolved that the 2022 draft budget presentation be accepted as presented. And further that it moves to tomorrow's budget agenda, I guess, for final. Is that what you want on the end of it, Pat?
Just one
Probably.
clarification. We did allow people to make presentations and I'm not sure if we do have one person in the waiting room, whether or not they have to, or if they want to make a presentation. I will tell you though, that we did place this on Bang the Table and we had 90 people were aware of the project. 22 informed that they had downloaded the documents and watched the video, and we have had 0 comments submitted.
Okay, so I thought the public questions were next. With the next item, item 7. Or do you want? Or is there public who wishes to maybe speak to this presentation?
That's what I'm wondering, Madam Mayor, if there's anyone wants to speak to the presentation.
Okay, I see Grit has her hand up here in the corner on the screen. So I can let Grit, Grit, do you have a question or comment that you'd like to speak on?
Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, council and staff. Thank you for providing residents with the opportunity to comment and ask questions regarding the 2022 budget. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank certain staff and council members who have worked hand in hand with residents over the past year. I appreciate the good working relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and common purpose that have begun to develop between staff, council, and the taxpayers. Today, I am raising the matter of COLA or COLI, Cost of Living Allowance Adjustment Index versus CPI, Consumer Price Index, which are not directly comparable. It will take too much time to explain the differences now, but I have included information in the written submission I will send to the clerk following this meeting for your consideration and to be attached to the minutes. The reason I raise this is because the 2022 budget includes a 4.9% COLA increase to wages, as shown on slide 4 of today's presentation. I believe the HR policy needs to be reviewed before the 2022 budget is passed, as it is flawed. It appears that the policy attempts to base COLA on the highest month of CPI in 2021, which was 4.9%. This is not the correct way to calculate COLA. An excellent example of how COLA can be calculated is provided by the Ontario Pension Board to its members, and I have included that in my written submission. The cost of living increase that the Ontario Pension Board has set for 2022 is 2.4%. OMERS, which is the municipal pension plan for employees, has set 2022 COLA at 2.74%. And I know that OPG has set COLA for 2022 at 2.4%. As a taxpayer in this township and as a resident who has closely followed the budget process for 11 years, I am concerned that there has been a push to rush budgets through for 2021 and 2022. Let's not forget that the 2020 budget was not passed until the end of April. So why the push to rush 2021, which passed on December 5th without a full year of actuals presented alongside for comparison? The 2022 budget only included actuals to the end of November, meaning expenses and a full month of payroll is missing, which is around 250 to 260,000 just in salaries and benefits alone. The increases in wages over the past 2 years is high and should be reviewed as well. What is also astonishing for me is to realize that the 4.9% COLA increase equates to approximately 2.5% of the 3.9 tax levy increase for the entire 2022 budget. This brings me to my ask of council today. I respectfully request that council consider deferring the passing of the 2022 budget for 1 month to February to allow time for review of the HR policy relating to COLA and to establish a reasonable COLA for AH Township based on examples presented today from reputable organizations. Thank you for considering my comments.
Okay, thank you, Grit, for your input. And I'm sure council will have some discussion. Are there any further questions that anyone is aware of or wants to ask? Seeing none. Okay. So we're accepting the presentation as it is right now. Is that how you want, how do you want it at end there? So it's correct, Pat?
So if council is, if council is satisfied with the budget presentation and don't want to move to review it any further, then you could pass a motion saying that the budget as presented be accepted and that it be referred to the January 13th council meeting for final approval, if that's what council chooses.
Okay, council. What's your wish? Sherry, I think you made the motion.
Yeah.
Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm happy to accept the presentation and move the budget into our regular council meeting for tomorrow. I appreciate Grit's presentation, and I think, you know, if that's something that council is going to consider, I think that is something that we talk about in terms of moving forward and changing that policy for 2023 budget discussions. Not this year.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Booth? You're going second?
On mute.
Yeah, you're on mute. Okay.
I agree with what Sherry's saying. Us as council were going on this information that we were given, and this was the policy that we have. So I think we need to follow that for this year. And some good points were raised by the concerned citizen Grit about how different organizations come to what a COLA increase is. So I would be no problem with passing this budget this year, and then maybe this summer we can sit down and talk as a council to find out what other institutions and communities and that are using for COLA. Because reading through this and understanding what OMERS does and that, they seem to do it different, right? So I agree with some of the points made. It was good, but I think with this, it's kind of unfair to not go through with this for staff, because last year staff received no COLA increase. So for us to use the rules last year and then this year, now that there is an increase, to say, well, we don't like the results of it, is sort of, you know, a slap of the face, I believe, to staff. So I have no problem with, like Sherry said, to go ahead and pass this one, and let's look at the procedures for the next 2022 budget for how COLA is
Okay, and we didn't get any complaints for 2021's budget that we did not give COLA. So that's, I agree with your point, Greg. Carol, do you have a comment?
I just wanted to point out that the cost of living adjustment in the policy actually states where we get it from. So it says that it shall be calculating using CPI for the annual increase. The CPI yearly inflation rate from October in the current year is to be used in place for the effective date in the next year. This amount shall never be negative. So it wasn't like we chose October. That's what's in the policy. A lot of municipalities have that exact same policy. A lot of municipalities also last year, because it was zero, gave their staff an increase. So this year they've reduced the increase they're giving by the amount they gave last year. So I've talked to a lot of different treasurers in with this policy, and there are many of them that have the same October CPI rate. So we were just following policy, and we didn't pick a October out of our hats because it was more expensive. It was more a higher increase, because we would have done that for last year and not gotten a 0% increase too. So.
Right. Okay. So if there's no further comments, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 7 is public questions, and
And,
are you going to do those, Pat or Carol?
we didn't receive any public questions.
Okay.
You should have a motion to receive the presentation though by Ms. Cole.
Okay, could I have a mover to receive the presentation given today by Mrs. Grit Cole? Moved by Councillor Phil, second by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. So we'll move on to item 8 if we didn't have any public questions. We've already done that one. We did it in the budget. We moved it forward. So item 9 is the confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 10-2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the 2022 draft budget session held on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, be read and deemed to be passed this 12th day of January, 2022. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Phillips, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gibson. All in favor? Carried. And motion to adjourn at 2:02 p.m. Sherry, and seconded by Mike, seconded by Jim. I think he had his hand up ahead of you, Mike, but I'm just used to yours up and down. All in favor? Carried. Okay, see everyone tomorrow at 12:30.
Good to see you, Carol.
Yeah. All
Pardon?
the best, Carol.
Say good to see you, Carol.
Thanks.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Okay. See you later. Bye-bye.